Greetings, everybody. I had to start the other video. I had to stop it and start again. Happy Monday. As you can see, it's been a minute since I've been live. As you can see, this has been a lot of people have been asking me my views on this R. Kelly conviction. So I said to myself, let me come live. I have to come live for to share my views from a psychological perspective. As you all know, the other time I did part 1 and 2, people learned a lot from it. So I thought, you know what, let me do this again, R. Kelly's conviction. So those of you that did not see my other reviews on R. Kelly's court process, I've been following it for a while, since it started. Hi, whoever's joined. How are you? Share the video for those who need it, and those who's about to see it later, share it as well. So yes, I've come live to unpack it again. The other videos that I did on this matter actually is on my YouTube channel, so, Psychological 360, Psychological Think Tank 360. So those of you that wanna browse through my my analysis of what went down, and it's exactly how I analyzed it from a psychological perspective. Most things actually came out in court, but I'm of the opinion that R. Kelly's lawyers could have pleaded not exactly insanity, but could have pleaded a mental health battle on his case in regards to mental health illness, because he has a mental health illness, and he was an abused child, as we know, as the story unpacked. Those of you that watched the actual documentary of R. Kelly and all these women, you should know that there was a mental health issue that was unpacked on his side. And of course, it was a joint enterprise from a lot of people. There was a lot of people involved in R. Kelly's sex trafficking trial, as it unpacked all the way from 1994. This, I believe, is when he met Aaliyah. So I always tell people from a legal perspective that whenever something legal comes up, they will unpack your I hate people that call it when you're on live. How can you call me when I'm on live? Anyway, they will, on a legal perspective, they'll unpack things that are 10 years ago, even 40, 50 years ago, if it pertains to the case that is at hand. So they unpacked R. Kelly's case since 1994, where he was with he chose to marry a minor. Those from that was a red flag. He chose to get married to a minor who's Aaliyah. Of course, the forgery documents and all that, and of course the trial is still unfolding for certain people, because there's a few people that are gonna get convicted too in regards to this R. Kelly's conviction, because there was a lot of managers involved, people on tour, a lot of promoters that aided this sex trafficking enterprise, we'll say in law. So the case from other perspective, which they might not show on TV, is still unpacking. There was loads of other people involved as it unpacks, because remember, this is like a 5 years, not 5 years, more than 5 years, 10, 15 years case pending. But I won't delve into R. Kelly's history. What I would do, because that is on my channel, Psychological Think Tank 360. Hello, Norman. How are you? Hope you're all right. Anyway, thanks for joining. When you see the video, please share your views, comment, and so forth. So yes, I am unpacking R. Kelly's case. So I won't delve in. Those of you, I've already done part 2 in regards to analyzing it from a psychological perspective. Now, this is the final judgment call. I'm gonna unpack the way the judges made their decision in regards to, the conviction of a guilty plea, of a guilty conviction. Okay. First of all, the evidence was too overwhelming, first and foremost. And secondly, there needed to be a balance of justice. In anything in law, there has to be a balance. The scales of justice have to be balanced in order for them to make a judgment. It was balanced by the people that came and gave evidence against R. Kelly. So the scales of justice were balanced. Thank you, Norman. I'm doing good as well. I'm doing good. Thank you for watching. Yeah, so as I was saying, the scales of balance of justice were not balanced in R. Kelly's favor, because the evidence and the merit of the case tilted towards the prosecution services and the defendants, or I would say, it was in the public interest to ensure that he was, convicted. But my question is still, was the conviction fair, or was it unfair according to the Mental Capacity Act? This is where the R. Kelly's lawyers, I feel, could have penetrated the system a bit more in regards to the fact findings of the guilty plea that was put on the table. Oftentimes when I go in court as a Mackenzie friend at law, I always ensure that if there's a plea where the scales of justice are balanced against the defendant, against the prosecution, the person who's been prosecuted, the prosecution services, I make sure, I make sure that the evidence has meritable conclusion. So, in my opinion, I believe that R. Kelly's lawyers didn't ensure that they assess the mental capacity, because we won in trial, so I can only allude to it because we didn't observe the case in its full capacity. But I believe that the lawyers would have penetrated that his mental health capacity should be on the table at the time of the crime. Some crime were done within the act, and some crime were premeditated, something called actus rea and mens rea. So in law, there's something called actus rea and mens rea. Did R. Kelly do some of these acts within an act where he had to take alcohol, or he was intoxicated, or there was some influential factors around him, or was he dragged? Either way, this is not to make excuses for him, because these incidents were seen as habitual incidences. So that was what was concluded, all in all, in a nutshell. But it means most of the premeditated act overwhelmed the actus rea. So the mens rea overwhelmed the actus rea. The mens rea was premeditated. But from a psychological perspective, on a psychological view of things, Kelly, there's two different characters, as I say on my channel, that when I packed R. Kelly's trial. There's R. Kelly and there's Robert Kelly. Robert Kelly, with entertainers, any artists that are in entertainment, especially those that grew up young in entertainment, oftentimes they have two personalities, or the character, So there was R. Kelly and there was Robert Kelly. Okay, so R. Kelly's wife knew both Robert Kelly and R. Kelly. Right? Most managers, promoters, and all the other people and the fans, they usually know R. Kelly. So Robert Kelly is the real person, the real character. Robert Kelly got abused when he was younger, blah, 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 sexual abuse from his uncle from a young age as the story unfolds. So he learned how to see it as the norm, being bisexual, by the way. He did not only sleep with men, he also slept with women. He slept with a lot of people. Oh, hi Tash, how are you? Hope you're all right. And then not to say he's a sexual predator, where he convicted, his victim to agree to serious sexual acts. First and foremost, Tasha, I'm going to answer your question. Yes, it can be seen as sexual predator. Yes, in most incidences, because if the sex was premeditated and it was instigated by a group or a circle of tall people that were around him, gave him the women, or every time he asked for them, right, this was something that was premeditated, because from what I had in the court is that he actually made some of his sex victims imprisoned in his own home. So that could be called as a sexual predator, hence why the sex trafficking ring is bigger than R. Kelly. There's other people that are going to be convicted too out of R. Kelly's trial, because it was seen as an enterprise. It was not only R. Kelly, but then if the R. Kelly's lawyers also alluded to Robert Kelly, who Robert Kelly was also an abused child, then also we would know that the predator was learned behaviors as well as premeditated, as well as money and power. So there was a lot of factors and fact findings, hence why it took quite a lot of time for the conviction to go ahead, because the predators around the case were so big. So yes, Tasha, he was a sexual predator, but it's called a learned sexual predator, because in forensic psychology, there's other tools that are called a sadistic sexual predator. A sadistic sexual predator is someone who goes and has sex for women because of their shoes that they're wearing. R. Kelly was a sexual predator generally. He fought for power through sex simply because he got abused. His power of consensual sex got abused by his uncle. So he learned the behavior of having sex with somebody. You didn't have to have consent. What actually went more deeper than that is that he was also given the assets and tools around where he can use his power and money to influence his predators' sexual norms of life. Okay, so Robert Kelly, right, was an abused man. Kelly was the alter ego that wanted to fight the abused man. Okay, so in regards to the predator came from Robert Kelly. Kelly was the one that wanted to fight the abuse situation, but he had two alter egos. Most importantly, from again a psychological perspective, a lot of entertainers do abuse their power, as we were seeing in regards to sex, if they don't have self-love. We've learned that R. Kelly never had self-love from when he was younger. Nobody showed him self-love. His mom died. I won't even say R. Kelly, I'm talking about Robert Kelly now, excuse me, because there's two people. Robert Kelly learned nothing about self-love from when he was younger. His self-love was abused. So then he obtained the skill and power of money and a gift of singing. So that gift also gave him unrealistic power where he can use people to obtain self-love through his gift of singing, whereby from, psychologically, you can't really get that if you don't love yourself first and foremost. Because what happens is you are naturally abusing your own self. So Robert Kelly was a man who felt that people used him. It stemmed from his family. So when you know that your family is using you or has used you, especially from a sexual perspective, and abused your power, your energy, financially, even mentally, because it's a mental factor, then it means that you find it natural to abuse people. You understand? Hence why he felt it was natural for him to be with Aaliyah at such a young age, because someone else abused him at such a young age. Any man in his normal perspective, in his normal brain cells, will never penetrate a 14-year-old at the age of 22 or 26. Will never do that, and never take them to the altar. All of this situation with Aaliyah, R. Kelly was seeking back the power that Robert Kelly had been stolen from. So in my understanding from a psychological perspective, the sadistic part of it, the sexual sadistic part of it, was where he started imprisoning the women, and also he abused his wife for years, like 13, 14 years. He abused the individual because R. Kelly did not love himself. Neither did Robert Kelly. None of the two personalities or characters knew how to love, self-love, because what was given to Mr. Robert Kelly and what was given to R. Kelly was all subliminal abuse. So a person that loves themselves equally would be able to see that, you know what, I'm not using sex to gain, to feel loved. I'm not using or abusing sex to feel loved. Yes, I believe he had a narcissistic character. Yes, Tasha. R. Kelly was very, very narcissistic. A lot of people are narcissistic without knowing and acknowledging that they are narcissistic. These narcissistic learned behaviors are so stemming from the young age. And usually it's the people that are narcissistic is usually people that never had much when they were younger, or people that were abused when they were younger, or people that have just been exposed to certain things in life, okay, through their adult age. So they become narcissistic, right? And in regards to him obtaining power, is because, first of all, he couldn't read or write. Everybody always controlled him. Although he had a gift, but there was forms of control, different forms of control around him that he saw. For me, the way I assessed and analyzed is that he saw that as they're stealing my power. So R. Kelly never wrote his music, like write it down on paper. From what the tabloids are saying, and his interview, he couldn't read or write. So most of the time, his wife or some of his managers and productions and writers, he brought them into the studio to help him write and so forth. So he would sing it and then they would write it. So that alone is a special educational need that is very, very, it can make the person, the individual, feel so deprived or very less of a human being. Oftentimes, most of them do. But having said that, heading back to the wife abuse, many people have had in tabloids saying that Kelly's wife, should have done better, or should have known better, and she faced the abused for years. But first and foremost, the way I analyze R. Kelly's wife herself, she was also an abused young lady, because she herself was psychologically, mentally a victim to his this obtaining power and money that Robert Kelly, first and foremost, showed her. So in regards to how the wife would have reacted, she was also already a vulnerable adult. So from what I'm hearing, from what she was saying, I don't quite know her childhood situation, but I know that she was a vulnerable adult, and she's the one that needed to safeguard herself. Kelly usually bought the victim in their own home. You know, it was a big mansion, very, very big mansion. Hello, Princess Taya, how are you, sis? Long time. Well done, my Libra sister. So R. Kelly usually bought the victims in the home, which was not right anyway, because it's your marital home. So I learned that he also locked her in the bathroom when she was, I think, 6 or 7 months pregnant. Locking your own wife in the bathroom to sleep in the bath overnight, 6 or 7 months when she's pregnant. To me, that alone shows a sick man. For me personally, I would have left the marriage here, there and then. I would have seen that as a form of a sickness, and that person needed treatment. Understand? And because she also, I think she said that she was also, R. Kelly made her alienated from her family, and none of her family could go to the house and see her. And I saw that as something that was really, really distractive, yeah, towards a human being, someone that you claim you love, knowing R. Kelly don't love themselves. So a person who doesn't love themselves, or who doesn't know how to love themselves, cannot love, or cannot have a marriage that is maintained in a healthy way. Nor can he have any healthy sexual relations with anybody without knowing that they love themselves. You know, that's why he used to sleep with everything that walks, both men and women. So anybody that sleeps with anything, believe this is also from a spiritual perspective. You pick up different spirits. So R. Kelly picked up different spirits around him. He was mentally sick, spiritually sick, and physically sick because he contracted some diseases that were treated as well, as we learned in court. I mean, it was a very graphic trial that some of the stuff were not shown. But as I've learned that it is a show, it was an enterprise. There was loads of different people that were engaged in this case. And so as time goes by, there's a few people that will still be convicted because investigations are still going on. From 1994, you know, these people enabled R. Kelly, enabled him, gave him the women to sex traffic, you know, gave him the women to abuse the young women, but also some women were set him. They set him up with these women, some of them because of money. You know, so promoters or DJs might set him up. And this is the same thing that they tried to do with Tupac. But the thing is, Tupac had too much heart. He had too much self-love. He had too much self-confidence and pride that he would never allow that. So what happened was they convicted him so that they could break his career. In the end, years to now, we found out that it was fake, that the girl was lying, that in actual fact, Tupac just only touched her bottom, nothing else. And she was in the room and he didn't even touch her. There was other people there. So you can get, as an entertainer who doesn't love themselves like R. Kelly, can easily get trapped and manipulated by other people because people around, they know the person's weakness. Secondly, same thing with Tupac, because he had self-love, none of that could ever happen to him. But he also got set up the same way, you know, with all these girls that, you know, women around him. But because he knew who he was glitz and glam was not his motto. His motto was singing the message and believing in who he is and liberating his community and so forth. And also he was married, so he had to annul the wedding with his wife because he didn't want her to get in financial trouble. R. Kelly couldn't do something like that. Now that he's convicted, now his ex-wife has to pick up the pieces. The woman she's now a motivational speaker about abuse, sexual abuse and all this other stuff in relationships. She doesn't make too much money. She's in her late 40s. Dancing that you used to do then will not maintain the bills. And R. Kelly, I don't know, his estate, I think, had gone down because he used it through the courts. So now, this girl, this lady, the old now, you know, mature woman, is now left to pick up the pieces because now she can't be dancing in the music videos like how she was dancing with R. Kelly before in the music videos on tours and all that. You know, nobody's gonna hire you because you're an old woman. So now what she's doing, she's teaching dancing and she's also doing motivational speaking about abused women. So I believe I learned that they live in a condo now. Now she has to maintain the children. So the estate has gone down. Funny enough, I've had that the music, R. Kelly's music now, the streams have gone up. But Mr. Robert Kelly needs treatment. whether the guilty plea is there as well. Well, he's been convicted, but now he needs treatment. I would suggest that their lawyer, Mr. Kelly, Robert's lawyer, should actually go in for a retrial of mental health and adult young adult abused, an abused child, I should say, because he was an abused child. And I don't understand where Kelly's family, his mom and his dad was at this point in time, but nevertheless, it is what it is. So yes, that is my view on the judgment. The judgment had to be done, as I said before, simply because, first and foremost, the scales of justice were balanced to the merit of the defendants. Okay? Because the evidence was too overwhelming, the premeditation of it all was too overwhelming. Then the enterprise of it all with other people involved was too overwhelming. So the trial is still pending and so forth. Yes, and that's that. Nice to see you guys. I haven't been live for a while. We've got things we're doing at the moment, up and down, but I will definitely come back with the social media lockdown, as everybody wants me to do. Those people that inbox me wants to hear my opinion on the social media lockdown that took place not so long ago, but I think about 2 weeks ago it took place. And then my Libra Princess Toya, happy birthday, Queen. Libra, just like myself. I hope you enjoyed yourself, sweetheart, and all that. No, man, tada, na. So, Tasha, see you soon. And all those that looked in, share this video on whoever needs to hear this and that. And I'll catch you next time. Bye for now. Great evening.